Coming up this week on the show, Gary's here, and we've got lots to catch up. We've had a lot of guests recently, but this week we're going to have a catch up. We're going to be talking about AI in different applications in the smart home and in music. I'll be talking about some of the synth videos that I've done. Gary's talking smart home, EV, and lots more. So let's get straight to Gary. Gary, good evening.
Good evening, Ian. Long time no speak.
Yes.
It has been a bit like that the last few weeks, but some fantastic guests. I've been really enjoying listening to the podcast myself.
Yeah, we've had some great guests. We've been hacking firmware on 1980 synthesizers, which was good. And last week
was good. Yeah, I was here for that one.
And then last week we had Daniel Phillips from Sweetwater in the USA, and it talking about his sort of journey into synths and synth programming.
That was great. That was fabulous.
Yeah, really, it was really interesting talking to Daniel as well. So, we've had some really good shows, but I'm away next week, so we're having a week off this next week. So I thought we would just catch up on some of the things that we've not had a chance to talk about over the last few weeks. Actually, there has been some dev builds and canary builds even as well, but I don't think there was anything particularly, but there was a few bits and pieces that we could talk about on that. We've got lots of little stories to talk about.
Yeah, we could talk about AI music creation, because we had a sample of that a couple of weeks back.
Oh yes, and I played that out on the show as well. The one that you did. So yeah, we'll talk AI music, we'll talk Windows builds, we'll talk synth sound packs and some other bits and pieces. So let's talk about that first, because quite a controversial topic within all industries, really, isn't it? But especially around the creatives, is the use of AI to effectively remove creatives from the process, or is it enhancing creatives? So yeah, you've been playing about with a couple of different things.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, those are the people. I mean, we can always play at the end of this as well. But I created a new theme tune for the Digital Lifestyle Show, and basically, I'm using an AI which can take an idea, turn it into lyrics, and then put those lyrics to any music genre and create a song, and then sing it and play it. And do it really well. So it's a combination of things. It's a combination of the music creation stuff, which has been around for a while, coupled with the really great advances recently in text to speech and text to singing now as well, where you can get real intonation and everything. It just sounds so natural. And the reason it sounds so natural is it's basically stealing big chunks of people's voices from everywhere to make it sound so good. That's how it works. I mean, it's the same way with any large language model. It chunks things together to make something sensible based on what most people would do to make it sensible. So, is it creative? Is it just copying? I mean, it's the. But then you get onto the Ed Sheeran issue, isn't it? That what is new in the world of music?
Well, George Harrison, My Sweet Lord, it goes right back, doesn't it?
It does. It's so different because there's only a limited number of things you can really do, and to be genuinely creative and to come up with something out there is so unusual. I mean, we have it occasionally. You do get some really distinctive things suddenly appear which you've never heard before, never heard the sound before, and some of the stuff we're doing around the synthesis around that as well. That's been very creative. But if you want a song about a particular lyric, and you are good at writing prompts, because it is really so. I think that the big skill which is coming up, and I've had this laughed about before, is prompt engineering. The idea of someone who can really write a prompt well. It's the same creative skills for writing as ever been. If you're a good creative writer, then you can write a good prompt which the AI can then develop on. So you can say it doesn't get rid of creativity completely, because to write that song I had to be creative. I had to come up with a set of prompts which would trigger a lyric which would be reasonable for the Digital Lifestyle Show and what we were talking about. It did a pretty good job. And then I had to tweak the lyrics a little bit because the lyrics weren't coming up exactly how I wanted them to. But there are a couple of things which really impressed me in there. Obviously, it says the Digital Lifestyle Show, which is not something you would have heard it sung anywhere before, and it sings it really well with a lot of intonation, and also some of the rhyming it came up with of its own, which is actually quite good. Compowering digital lifestyle and things like that, which we're quite good. But the challenge is always going to be to write good prompts. Now, this is getting really scary for all industries. I mean, if you look at Google's video stuff, which is basically creating videos on the fly, you can create very, very believable videos with a good prompt, and it's very difficult to tell it from real filmed content. Again, it's not really correct. It's again just taking things from everywhere and amalgamating them to make things. I mean, it's the same way programming. When you ask an AI to write a bit of code, it's lifting it from all over the place. And I have seen my own code appear, complete with my own comments in stuff when I've prompted to do something. So it's a challenge to see if it's really creative, and it's eating its own dog food, isn't it? It's feeding on itself to create its own. So basically, what's going to be in the next 20 years, all the stuff that AI is creating will be based on stuff that AI has created. And generally create, and it's going to stagnate. I think it's going to end up. There's only so much you can do with LLMs and actually pulling stuff in. Yes, it's brilliant, and you can do some amazing stuff. I mean, I'm playing around. So I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. But I've been playing with Home Assistant because some of our good listeners said you must play with Home Assistant, have a try of it, and see if it helps you. And it does. I mean, it's got some really clever stuff. And one of the really nice things which has happened with Home Assistant recently is they've introduced real integration with some of the large language models. So you can use Google's language model, you can use OpenAI, you can use all Bard, you can use all the various AI message. And there's a really nice plugin called LLM Vision, which basically takes pictures and analyzes them for you. So we've seen this before. The CNAI program I worked on many years ago allows you to analyze images. There's one I did for the blind, that helped Microsoft for the blind and partially sighted. And it will analyze the scene. But this is doing it in real time off a video feed. And actually can do it from your camera feeds. So I can take all my cameras I've got already, feed them into this thing, and it will say things like, I can actually ask it questions because it's an LLM, so it can actually understand what I'm trying to ask it. So I can say things like, I just heard a noise. Is there an issue? And it will say, I've checked all the cameras. And I actually did this last night. I've checked all the cameras and they all appear to clear. What I can see, however, is a piece of wood seems to have fallen over in the backyard. Now, backyard isn't very American, is it? And that's probably why the LLM. But that was quite interesting to get that sort of feedback. And that's just taking feeds from all the cameras and just analysing them on motion basically. And you can trigger it on motion. You can trigger it with voice. So you can do a check if you're worried about something. And because it's an LLM, it will do that. So working on that using the Home Assistant voice interaction, which is not. It's not as mature as I'd like, but it's really getting there now. So there's some interesting stuff going on in that world. There's also an incredible movement for AI in China at the moment. I'm just trying to see if I can actually remember what this is called because it's Xiaoi something or other. I got there's so many show me the money. Xiaoi, what is it called?
While you're looking at it, it's funny because I use it in all different places now as well. Yeah. Even the show notes, doing the podcast show notes was always a really time-consuming job. I did it in the early days when we started by manually listening and writing every segment down. But it took an hour show, took over an hour to do the show notes. So it just got where I couldn't do that. So I stopped doing the individual segment show notes. But what I do now is after I've edited the video, I get the YouTube transcript, give that to Copilot, and it produces me timestamps based on everything that we said. So for the last few weeks, show notes have all been done using Copilot and that, and also it'll help give me a description. So all I'm doing now is I'm asking for the description, the timestamps, the tags, and the title, and then I just tweet them and post them. So now I've got back to doing full timestamps on my videos again for this show, whereas before I wasn't doing that. But when I do my music ones, I was doing those, the shorter 10-20 minute ones. I was doing those, but that's really time consuming. So that's actually been a good help. So that's great. That's a good avenue where it's like an assistant. You would ask someone to create the timestamps for you, but it's not taking away any creativity. It's just a repetitive, time-consuming task that I can use quite well. Where it does get a bit more into the creative side, if I ask it to design a YouTube thumbnail, which it will do. But then I find them pretty much they look like YouTube thumbnails that you see everybody else do, but they're never quite right. So I end up doing my own anyway. But when it gets to the creative side, it's an approximation, but not quite there, and then you end up having to do your own. But it was interesting that the music one it sounded like I don't know what prompts. I can guess you use like synth-wave and 80s and that kind of style genre. That's how you got that, because I recognize the drum sounds and everything else. It was very sort of pseudo 80s. But like you said, it's relying on the back catalogue of stuff to do that, and eventually it's going to be relying on its own back catalogue. So you're not going to get a new wave of music coming through from AI or something like that. You're not going to get punk, whatever the next equivalent of punk is.
Yeah, so it's not going to be that super creative. Which
yeah, and there'll probably be. There's always a backlash against these things, and there will be probably another genre of music that comes along where there's a backlash to the AI. But then, if you look at how a lot of chart music, I'm sure they use focus groups and things like that to get chart pop music in a format that's sellable, because it's just selling the content. So effectively they're listening. The composers are all referencing other older styles of music to make it familiar and everything else. So it's a bit like AI, what AI is doing anyway.
Yeah, it's impressive. Let me share my screen so we can have a look at this. So this is Xiaoi, I think is how it's pronounced, but I'm sure my Mandarin friends would tell me otherwise. So this is actually an ESP. So we spoke about ESP devices. I've got them all scattered around here, all over the place, doing various things like tracking where I am and everything like that. Little tiny 32-bit chipset, Wi-Fi built in, and everything else. So this is built on that, and you could build your own. But it's really difficult to build one as cheaply as they sell the sites. So this is with a battery and a touch screen for 20 quid, built an ASP screen, and it's quite impressive if you actually can see what it does. So you can obviously have sort of slightly animated processes, and it will respond. I mean, obviously this is in Mandarin, but there are English versions as well.
So what do you need to then develop a sort of backend, or is this like ready to go out of the box?
So it's using. So there was a lot of talk at Microsoft Build about a thing called MCP, which is the Model Context Protocol, which is basically a way for AIs to talk to AIs. So you can have a front end which talks to any of the back ends. So this is using DeepSeek, which is the Chinese AI, but that uses MCP. And you can use Xiaoxi's server, or you can actually host your own, and then all the traffic is internal, so that gets around any fears that it's talking back to base and whatever like that. But this is very much a community project. This Xiaoqi thing is not a commercial project. It's been created by one man who's been pushing it out. Very open source type of arrangements on it. And it's just taken off because it's so cheap for the Chinese manufacturers to produce these things. The little USB chip, put it together, and away you go. And it's incredibly impressive what they can actually do with these. So you can hold incredibly good conversations with it. It does all the normal stuff rather than things. It's 20 quid. It's great. But the other thing, which is why I'm interested in this, is you can actually flash these with ESP Home, which is an industry standard basically for home automation on ESP chips. And that means you can then use it as an interface to Home Assistant and use it as the voice control for Home Assistant. So that gives you another option to use it. You lose the full AI control at that point, but you can then pipe it through to another AI if you want to. Or because it's MCP and Home Assistant now actually has a support for MCP, although admittedly it was written in Chinese, so it's a bit difficult to work out exactly how to use it. You can actually then talk directly to the Xiaoxi AI, which again you can host locally as long as you've got a reasonably powerful machine, and do all the things that it can do. And it's I mean, it's impressive. It's definitely a better conversation than you had with something like Alexa at the moment. Although obviously Alexa now going down this route of having IAs as well. But the whole MCP thing is really interesting. I mean, there's a few gotchas around MCP, and I some things I absolutely hate about it. It's particularly around the security. It's wide open for abuses. MCP. I'll definitely lock it down inside your own home if you're going to use it. It's because there's very little security on it. And there's already been cases of people hacking by remote prompting an AI to do things. So you still watch that, but I mean, where else could you buy a development board with a decent screen and a decent case and touch screen and a battery and a decent speaker, because it has got a reasonably decent speaker with Wi-Fi and everything on it for that sort of price? It's just. And even in the UK on Amazon, they're about 25 quid. So it's not, if you don't want to buy from the Chinese supplier, you can do that as well. So yeah, it's all.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It's and you've got options as well. You can choose if you want touchscreen. You can choose if you don't want touchscreen, don't want battery. So you've got lots of options you can actually choose with it, and they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes as well. These Xiaoi things. There's tons of them. If I do a search on here for Xiaoi. This is obviously AliExpress, which is a marketplace for all things Chinese electronics. And my network is incredibly slow today for some reason. But yeah, there's I think it's about 1,000 of them on here, of various shapes and sizes. So you can sort of so you got these little round puck ones and big screen ones, and yeah, it's just all development kits. So you can get animated figures and all sorts of things. So you can really go to town on this. It's quite impressive. So yeah, so I think that's we are behind the game in the UK on this at the moment. I think this has become a real hobbyist thing in China. I mean, everywhere you look on the Chinese boards, they're talking about free AIs, and whereas we've still got big AIs that people are trying to sell us and charge you for. I mean, you can use Google's AI for a little bit of free, but you basically are being charged most of the time for stuff. So yeah, it's interesting how much is out there if you're prepared to look on it. And translate a bit from Mandarin, which is and Cantonese for that matter, because Hong Kong is a hotbed of it. So yeah, it's really interesting how this whole world's going. And as I say, I'm using it very effectively at home now for home automation stuff. I mean, it's like if I leave my driveway gate open, I used to have sensors to work that out, and because of the distance, they're really unreliable. Now I just point the camera at it and tell the AI, ask the AI if the gate's open, and it's worked it out without even training. This is the clever thing nowadays. The modern based AIs are self-training, so you just need to say. So I said to it, "Is the gate open?" It says, "I don't know the gate. Is the gate open or not? Can you tell me?" Yes, the gate's open. And next time I asked it, I said, "Is the gate open?" It says, "Well, it appears from what you told me the last time that the gate is open." And now it says, "Gate's open."
Yeah, that's where it's powerful. I've been using it for some converting documents to different formats and extracting data from PDFs and things like that. And it's especially a nice structured document. It really doesn't need any prompting to do it. It just return it and give it. And then of course, if you can incorporate that within a Power Automate flow, I've got a few little routines now where we have to convert documents. So I just set it up so the operator just forwards the email to an email address that I've set up. Power Automate intercepts it, does all the bits, sends it back to them, and just replies back to them. They could do it themselves in Copilot, but it's nice for an operator working on a desk just to forward it and get the reply back. The only thing I found with that, like a lot of things with AI, is if it's wrong, it's wrong, and there's not much you can do about it because it's a black box sort of approach. So you can't then tell it it's wrong because it's just in that process. Perhaps if with one of these, you can correct it, because sometimes you can correct within the Copilot, within the or ChatGPT, you can correct it, can't you? Then it remembers that for future. But I've had some fun with Copilot, the premium one, the Microsoft, and I'll say, "How's my calendar today?" And it'll say, "You have no appointments." So I say, "Yes, I have," and it says, correct. You are right. You do have appointments. Well, why did you tell me I didn't then? But it just must be the quirk of the way it's reading the data.
Yeah, it's interesting when you start getting the corrections and hallucinations sometimes which happen, and it's the same way normal researchers go. I mean, we if you look at the way the humans work, we go off on conspiracy theories quite happily if we got some. The research seems to show it, and equally AIs do that as well, and you're always having to correct them to make sure that they're actually giving you truthful stuff, because a lot of times they're just referencing other sites out there, and I mean, you getting things wrong in ways which are obvious to humans, but not necessarily to them, because the source is so poor for what they're doing. So it's interesting when you see these things.
Yeah, I think I certainly found for like I said with the show notes and things, for repetitive, predictable tasks, it's worked really good. For the creative stuff, it can get you so far. It's almost uncanny valley type time. That the track, which I will play out at the end of the show, it had all the right ingredients, and it was probably passable enough. You wouldn't put it out on your album, but it would be as a background music or closing sound, closing track on a podcast. It's fine for that. Although, not for me, because I want to make my own stuff. But yeah, I can see somebody, like with their own podcast and wants some music, then it would be enough for that. It's the same perhaps with me with artwork for album covers. I'm not a graphic designer, so when I've come with that, I can use AI to help me with that and piece things together. So so a graphic artist would frown on my use of that, because in the same way I would look at for music stuff. But it's horse course. But for the stuff that's repetitive, things like show notes or time segments, things like that, it's so useful for that. And like I say, you become a prompt engineer. I definitely agree that I think that's the way that things will go. Certain, there's certain market. It's just like the Industrial Revolution took away a lot of manual jobs and automated them or made them on a mass scale. It's the same kind of thing, isn't it? It will just be a different creativity will still be a demand, but perhaps
in a different way. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting what you're saying about the song, because that one I threw together in a few minutes, just because I think I actually did it while we were on the show the other week when we were talking about stuff, and I could have refined that a lot more, and I've done a few where I've refined them a lot, and then they become that uncanny valley stuff seems to go away, and you actually have something which is I mean, there's a song I did basically celebrating my kids, and a number of people have heard that and actually wanted it and wanted copies done with their kids, because it's so good. But that is really down to the quality of the prompts. And I've done this. I've actually shown people how to do this, and they just get nowhere near the quality I'm getting out of it. And I think it's because I'm so used to writing stuff like this, to sort of specs and basically writing very clear instructions and controlling it. And that I think is definitely a way to go. And you really do have to be that clever when you write prompts. I mean, I was seeing one the other day. So this is one for the Xiaoi thing, and it was basically the prompt to actually get it to behave like Harley Quinn, but not be Harley Quinn. So you're sassy, you're like Harley Quinn, but you're not the real Harley Quinn. Do not talk about Batman. Do not talk about any copyrighted technologies. And the prompt was about 4 pages, but it really worked when it actually was being used. So you can sort of see that's quite a skill. I'm not sure I'm totally good at it. I'm absolutely good at it, because for some of my home automation stuff hasn't worked as well as I would like it to. So, but it's
and it'd be interesting for something like, especially singing, because I've made music for years, and I haven't got a singing voice, so I always make instrumental music. But because basically I don't really have the, I don't necessarily want to work with a vocalist or anything. It's just my own sort of stuff I do for fun. But I've seen those singing engines now, and that maybe I could apply something like that and start writing lyrics as well, and and having a go at writing lyrics and use the voice engine, because it's good enough to go with the creativity and the music that I'm doing. So again, it's where, but then that's a vocalist would be horrified by that.
Yeah, I mean,
and a vocalist would get the keyboard parts done by AI instead of playing, because they can't play the keyboard.
I mean, the creator I use actually allows you to do vocal free versions of it. What it doesn't allow you to do is to do lyrics sung with no music behind them, which I think would be a really good way of doing it. I mean, and there are ways of doing it, I should say, to get that done. So I was just going to read out one of my prompts, just to get people an idea. So this is the one I'm using to actually analyze the images around, and this is based on a standard one which is out there. So it's not something I actually created this one, but it's quite a good example of what our prompt would be. So it says, summarize the events based on a series of images captured at short intervals. Focus only on moving subjects such as people, vehicles, and other active elements. Ignore static objects and scenery. Provide a clear and concise account of movements and interactions. Do not mention or imply the existence of images present the information as if directly observing the events. If no movement is detected, respond with no activity observed. And that actually is quite, and that last bit about not mentioning implying the existence of images, it's basically saying, don't say you're taking this off an image, say you're seeing it in real life. And that actually changes the way it speaks about it quite a lot. And those things are quite, and that's a prompt for Google Gemini. And depending which engine you're using, you change the way you write the prompts, which is another thing as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really quite powerful stuff, but you have to get it right.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's certainly an interesting, and like I said, I think mastering it is definitely a career thing that people will be able to make out. I see it a lot in the push for efficiency within businesses to use these tools to take out repetitive tasks, which is a good thing. The repetitive task goes, and then the people can then, it's not so much getting rid of people, it's about them doing something that is using the brain rather than just manual repetitive tasks. But there's a lot of it's certainly interesting. It's certainly an interesting thing. I've even seen I've tried with the ChatGPT some of the sound design stuff I've done, and I've said, like, for this particular synthesizer, I want to create a sawtooth monophonic lead sound in the style of, and I've given it lots of few prompts, and then it's good. Well, go to oscillator 1, set the parameter to this, and it understands that particular model of synthesizer. Now, none of them have ever really been particularly good, but it is interesting that it can think that way. A couple of times, ChatGPT offered to create the file for me so I could import it in, but that never worked. But I'm sure it will eventually. But then that's something, when I'm doing this sound design, that sometimes I have an idea in my head, start doing it, and it ends up being something completely different than what I set out to do. But the end result is what I wanted, and that's the same goes with music as well. Sometimes I think, I'll create a track in the style of such a thing, but then when I actually go and do it, I end up with something completely different, because my own prompts are different. You just you get triggered by a spark. So yeah, it's quite interesting to see those creative type stuff, but I still like creating my own stuff, doing my own creativity work. But then it's useful for me because I can spend less time doing the blog description posts and things like that, and more time on the sound design. So yeah, that's where it's been good for me. Actually, and speaking of those sound design, I've done quite a few of these 5-minute challenges, which have been quite good. So what I've done is set myself a challenge on these videos. I've got 5 minutes to create a sound. So it might be I've created dynamic flute sound. I did mmWave lead sound. I've done it on different synths. I've done velocity switching sound. The mmWave lead sound was quite good. So basically, I get an initialized program on the synth, so it's just ready. I start counter, and then I try and make that patch within the 5 minutes, and I explain it as they're going along. So I think they're quite good tutorials, because I've done a few tutorials now where I get really dragged into the details of it, and I'm in like 20-25 minutes, and I'm aware that not everybody wants to watch 25-minute, 30-minute, 40-minute video on sound design, but 5 minutes can just give you a flavor. So I've set myself that sort of 5-minute cutoff, and so I've done quite a few of those. So if you I'll include a link on the show notes, but there's there's a ton of different ones on there now for different synths as well. So 5-minute challenges, and people have been suggesting ideas for them as well, which has been really good. So that's made it even more fun. That there's sort of a challenge, 5 minutes to create whatever the sound is, and I've done those. And I've also got a couple of packs as well I wanted to mention. So one that I was asked to do actually is a Pink Floyd sound set for the Korg Wavestate. So I did one for the multipoly, sorry, a while ago. So I thought I'll have a go at doing this. So I went through my Pink Floyd collection and just started listening to the synth sounds and recreating them on the Wavestate. So that was quite good. That's almost an AI type task where I was analysing the sound and thinking, how can I make that on the synth? And so I've done that. So that's the sound pack that's available. And I've also got a community one available as well, which is I've set 23 performances from different people that I've got together into one community. So one community pack. So it's a free download, and these are professional sound designers, and it's a great way of them showing off their skills and a nice free pack. So you can get the free download, and then you can go and check out those full sound packs if you want, but there's also different ones on there. So all these 5-minute ones as well, I've also put the end result available as a free download as well. So if you watch the 5-minute video, then you can go and grab the file and save you even the 5 minutes if you want as well. So that's been quite fun. And the other videos I've quite enjoyed doing as well is some of those CR78 recreations using the RD78, that little drum machine I've got. So I've just done Same Old Scene, Roxy Music, which is a great track. So I've analysed the drum pattern, almost an AI type task as well. So I've analysed the drum pattern and recreated that, and then the video shows you how to create that yourself as a little walkthrough as well. So I've been doing a few of those. So I quite enjoyed doing those. And I've had quite a lot of suggestions for those as well. So people, what about this one? So okay, I'll give it a try, and I found some on there.
It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I mean, the other thing I think I mentioned this a couple of shows back. I was working on it, but now I've got it pretty much really implemented. So I've been using the ESP32 Atom Light versions. These are basically Atom Light chips on the set on the little device. And we've used it. We've seen this on the show before. I've used it with my weight sensor and all sorts of other bits and pieces. But I'm using this with a technology in Home Assistant called Bermuda, which is like Bermuda Triangle for Bermuda triangulation, and basically it uses beauty for LE, so it's tracking my phone. Like I said, I'm tracking my watch and everything like that, and it's really good. I've got so these are. I've been picking these up off the Chinese sites for about £4. So I've put one of these in each room. Just use ESP Home within Home Assistant to flash them, which is a job of about 10-15 minutes. Set the room you want to put them in, and then it says Gary is in this room. So at the moment, if I was to look at my dashboard, it would say Gary's in the studio, because that's what I call this room. So then you can trigger events based on that, and it's really accurate. The only thing I haven't managed quite yet is upstairs and downstairs. It picks up the ones below me if they're closer than the ones in the room. So I need to work that one out. But I think there's someone else that's come up with another skill which may actually sort that out. But yeah, for the money, I mean, basically, presence has been one of those real tricky challenges for home automation. It's the most important thing you've got, basically, to work out where somebody is. Doing automation is based on and it's like now my dashboards know I'm in the room, so the dashboard changes to be my information. And I've never been a real user of dashboards, because I don't actually believe necessarily you want to use a dashboard as well. The home should be automatic. It should be actually doing the intelligent home rather than smart home. But now they're actually useful. And it's things like it knows if it knows I'm leaving the house, and I'm not going by car. I'm not in my own car, so I'm going to a taxi. I'm usually going to the train station, and this is part of the AI. So it starts in my dashboard on my phone, and then starts showing the train times automatically. When I'm coming back, it does things like unlocking the gate if I'm in my car, so the gate can come open. But also things like if I'm in the studio, it knows I want to be able to control the studio blinds and lights in here. But I don't really care about them once I'm outside the studio, and it can shut them automatically when I'm outside the studio. So it knows that. And also, if we've got two people in the room, you can then set priorities of preferences. So if if Kim likes things colder than you do, she's always going to win that argument. So if she's in the room as you say, Thomas, you can set the temperature down. So there's things like that you can do, but couple that with presence sensing. So I've got a couple of these very cheap mmWave presence sensors. There's one which is normally sitting on top of my shelf in here, which is starting to fall down because one of the problems I've had with me. Anybody can recommend me some really good double-sided sticky tape which actually sticks when it gets hot? Because they tend to come off when it's hot. But even Gorilla Tape, which is supposed to be one of the better ones, because I'm not allowed to screw things in this office at the moment, and I've got one of those which is really good. And it's interesting. There's lots of cheaper ones these. So let's get this on camera. But so this is an mmWave scanner. I don't actually recommend this one because it broadcasts an awful lot. It's sending updates every few seconds, which can swamp your Zigbee network if you're not careful. I've actually got it on a separate Zigbee network just to avoid that. But it's a good sensor, and that will tell you how far away from the sensor a person is. And it's doing microwave, so it's basically checking for heartbeats. So it's not just saying that something's moving in the room; it's actually a human moving in the room.
Yeah,
and that's pretty good at doing that. So you couple that, and then you can work on distances. So inside this room, I've now got triangulation, so it knows where I'm sitting at the moment. So it's turned the lights on here. The lights down that end of the room are not turned on because they don't need to be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's sort of cleverness and also the brightness as well. It knows when I'm in here of an evening, I want it bright because I'm going to be on podcasts and videos, and I want to have a reasonable. But if I'm just sitting there working on the computer, I want it slightly dimmer because I don't want the heat of the lights. So it's really clever in that respect. And some of the stuff I just haven't even programmed in. It's learned it through the AI connections I've got. So it's power. The intelligent home is getting coming. It's an interesting one. I think my favourite automation I've come up with recently though is to do my car. Well, it's my boost car actually. So when you come home overnight, we plug it in, and I've mentioned I've got this own charger before, which is tied into intelligent Octopus charging. Go charging, intelligent Go, and that basically is based on how you set to tell it how much you want to charge by a certain time, and it will charge that at a cheap rate. As long as you're not overcharging. The problem is because the car hasn't got a direct API for it, you have to, which is recognised by Octopus or by OWN, you have to tell it what you want to charge it to, which is a bit of a faff, to be honest. It's not I've got need 80, but need 20% tonight to change it 20% before you plug it in. So what I've done is because Home Assistant has an integration for the car, it has an integration for OWN. It actually has an integration for the other charger I use. When I plug the OWN cable into the car, it says, you're plugging the cable into the car. What charge level is the car currently? I can read that, and I can send it to the OWN charger to set it so you don't have to bother doing them on the application. It sets it for you automatically, and I'll give you a little bit of loss. It calculates the loss potentials as well, because depending. It's quite complex calculation to actually work out loss exactly on a charge, because you get more loss when it's fuller than you do when it's less full. But yeah, so it does all that, and it's brilliant because now I don't have to think about it. I just plug the car in when I get home, and it's going to charge it right, and I know the next morning it's going to be at the percentage I want to go with. It just works. So yeah, it's simple things like that. It's things which make life easier. I think are the real benefits.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I like the idea of that. And I think that's something I need to want to perhaps pick up and get some of the smart stuff into here now. So I've got it, sort of the everything when I come in, I just have it when Alexa command and everything turns on. But yeah, it'd be nice to sort of have the presence on it and switch. I think it knows that during the day, switch this on. And,
yeah, I mean, if one thing I would suggest people trying is an mmWave justice sensor, because they've got way cheaper now. You can get some really cheap ones. The clinic ones are about to 40 quid, and although they allow you to zone based on distance from the sensor.
Yeah.
And actually, one of them which allow the car ones allow you to do sort of lots of different zones. I think Link do one where it's just 4 zones, so you can actually divide it properly into 4 zones. And then there's enough. All the others are just basically on distance away you are from it, and you can then work basic automations on that. And it really works well. I mean, it's great for things like kitchens where you walk down overnight and the lights just follow you across to where you are without turning all the lights on. It's just follow me lighting is really impressive when you do it right, and you can do that pretty well with these sensors. So yeah, it's good. I mean, if you think about, we've talked about LED strips before, and now adjustable LED strips. If you have an addressable LED strip and you know where you are in the room, you can just get that to follow you down the room, which is quite unnerving but clever.
Yeah, very 80s science fiction almost, isn't it? Because that kind of thing was I like that. I like that idea. That sort of retro, futuristic. Those retro. I always love those. Any old 60s, 70s, and 80s. Predictions of the future. I love that sort of technology stuff.
I haven't done that one. I think I'm going to have to go try that one. Get an addressable LED strip and do that at some point. So
because I think I've got one of those LED strips. I mean, it's only about that big, so it wouldn't quite work. But what you need is quite a big long one, don't you? But you can address them all, can't you? Then that would be quite interesting as it follows you around the room or whatever. Even if you had even your desk was like, as you move around your desk, it panned around with you and everything.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm definitely going to give that a go because I have got an LED strip, an addressable one running the whole length of this room. I just haven't done anything with it yet. So
how granular can it? How
they're usually segments, aren't they? They're sort of that sort of length of segment. So you could probably do a segment about that long. Do that.
And can it predict? And it can. The sensors are accurate enough to sort of beat that down.
Really good. Yeah, the sensors you can as long as you calibrate them, it will tell you how many centimeters you are away from the sensor.
Yeah.
So it works really well. You can get false positives on them, but you
can have a strip lights above the keyboards there. I've got the strip light. Sometimes I have it set up there. It's not there now, but and then as you go over to play it. It puts the light on, and when you come back this side, it turns it off because you don't need it because you're not looking at it.
And you could fade it up as you get towards it. That'd be cool as well. Fade it up. That's the sort of thing I like doing that. That's quite cool. That sort of animation. But it's that automatic stuff is good. Sometimes it gets a bit out of control. I mean, I've got a light automation in here, and it's based on a light sensor, and the light sensor went wrong the other day, so it kept turning the lights on. I was starting to turn them off, and it wouldn't turn them off because the light sensor was off, telling me it's too dark. Put the lights back on. No one turn them off. Put the lights back on.
Yeah, it's arguing with you. Yeah,
it was arguing with me. So it's not always perfect, but you certainly can do some pretty cool stuff with it. So I mean, the other thing which on here actually, let me see if I can find what I've been playing with it. I've been buying a lot of stuff from China recently, just because they've got lots of Zigbee stuff. And I've got a box full of Zigbee stuff with some quite interesting stuff. So these are, I think, really, really good little devices for temperature sensing. So that's £2, which is basically just a temperature humidity sensor. But that works really well. When I'm trying to find, I can't find it at the moment. But the other thing I've got a lot of these ones. So these are really good. This is something you definitely need if you have Zigbee, which is a range extender, basically. It's a Zigbee repeater, and these are brilliant. This particular model is way more powerful than any of the other ones I tried. So this has actually allowed me to get from the studio here all 70, 80 yards away to my garage door, just with this one repeater midway between in the house. And it's Very impressive that. And the other thing which I've never seen this before, but I think this is really cool. And I can get it out of the box. I can't actually think of a use of it yet, but this is a USB socket, 3 USB sockets, USB plug, so you can obviously split a USB power 3 ways. But those are individually adjustable switches in Zigbee, so you can turn on and off the individual USB ports.
Oh, right, yeah. So you could put a light, your phone charger, get to charge your phone. Or,
I haven't quite figured out. I mean, it would work pretty well, I suspect, for a light strip. If you just wanted to control a very basic USB light strip, you could do that with that and turn it on and off. But no, I haven't quite figured out what to do with it, but I'm sure it's something I can do something with. But yeah, it's quite impressive what you can do. Just working out what you want to do with it. Once you get enough data and things. I mean, the other thing I've been doing, and I obviously showed you that last temperature sensor, I've been getting lots of different temperature sensors to see which ones work most accurately. And I've scattered them all around. And I've actually been creating a heat map and working out how the air flows through the house and working out what the best doors and things and windows are open to try and keep the temperature down. And it's been interesting because we've actually been able to keep, even in the heat wave, been able to keep temperature down in the house pretty well just by opening certain windows and certain doors based on that heat map, without having to run the air conditioner. I think we've run the air conditioner a lot less than we've previously done. So that's quite an interesting use again. Modern, a traditional sort of thing you do in industrial modelling, we're doing it for the home.
Yeah, I suppose that's where these technologies makes it so it's more accessible. To everybody now. These kind of things that were previously not.
I mean, it's just like if you know where to buy them from. So this is another Zigbee. This one I particularly like because it actually runs on just a straight, unlike the usual rubbish little cell batteries you have to get. This is AAA, so you can actually it will last a while because it's on AAA, and it's Zigbee. So I've got one of these which has been running for nearly 2 years now on just one set of AAAs, and that's again is a really good sensor. And that's actually pretty accurate. And guess how much I paid for that one? I did buy 10 of them. So I bought 10 of them. And with import duties and everything else, it was £11.50. 10 of them. So you can get some good deals if you know it.
That's brilliant
as well, but you can get some good deals. So that's quite impressive. That all good stuff. So it's interesting. And it's then what you do with this stuff and how you actually use it. I mean, I've got some pretty simple alterations in here for lights and blinds and sun azimuth. So if the sun's in my eyes, the blinds come down automatically to block the sun, which is actually really easy to do. There's plenty of sources of information out there about where the sun is in the sky. So if you know which way you're facing, you can do pretty much really clever automations on based on that, or how hot it is outside. You can then use that as well, and temperature predictions and got blinds and things like that automatically. So it's good. Just don't overdo it. I think I've got way too complex a home automation system now. I'm going to have to simplify it. I've got too many different pieces to it because I've obviously built it on smart things. I also had Smart Life in there for some bits which didn't work on smart things, and now I've got other bits plugged into it, and it's all now being controlled by Home Assistant. That's a bit too complicated. I'm going to simplify that at some point.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes you do set anything complex, and it also gets too much to manage, and sometimes you do need to simplify it, and then of course you build it back up again, and that's the nature of these things, that you make it more complex again. Excellent. So it's great to catch up. It's been a while, so it was great to catch up and go through some of this stuff. Where can we find you? You've got your EV Owners channel.
I have what's called the EV Owner channel on YouTube, and I haven't put much out there recently, but I have got a couple of things coming up. So I'm doing that. I'm still trying to arrange an EV interview for the show. Will happen at some point with the Oak EV people, which are the people who make the dual charger unit. It's really impressed with that. So I'll try and get them on when it's either time when we can all do. It's just been a bit difficult with holidays and things getting that organised. But we will get that organised, and we'll have a chat with them because they're doing some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, we're on a break next week where I'm away. I'm going to be trying to take minimal amount of tech with me. I'll probably just take my Surface Go with me. I'm still using the this Surface Pro with the ARM processor one. It's really nice, actually. I really do like this. Not so good for the music stuff, but I have documented. I'll be taking that with me, and the Kindle. I think that'll be it.
That sounds like it's enough.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I won't be taking any synthesizers with me, any keyboards. I won't be taking any of that stuff. But we'll be back the following week. I think we've probably got a guest lined up for that. But check us on thedigitallifestyle.com, on YouTube, and I'll include YouTube. All the stuff I talked about, all the videos that I've been doing are on there as well. All the downloads are on thedigitallifestyle.com. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay.